Hey everyone. So, thanks for all the love and support you've shown me during this time of my father's passing. It's the hardest thing I've ever gone through in my entire life, and I'm sure I'm always going to be going through it. I'll never get to the other side of that, and you know what? That's going to have to be okay. It sure is a great sign of how much I love my father, how much he's missed, and I'm glad that I have so much love for him. You know what I'm saying? So I want to just a little bit about something that's really interesting about my dad with the whole gun debate and all the gun violence and how the gun violence has just rapidly gone up over the past couple decades now. And it's more frequent and it's deadlier. The violence is getting worse. My dad, he was in control of the largest guns and the largest, most powerful navy that the world has ever seen. My dad fired the big guns in the Iowa class battleships. Those are the most advanced, the biggest. They're 16 inches this way, like 6 feet long or something. The guns themselves, I don't know how many feet, maybe 30 feet, 40 feet, I don't know. They're just enormous. At a 45-degree angle, these are guns, not missiles. They could shoot over the horizon, something like 30 miles, 40 miles away or something like that, and it would leave a crater in the earth about 10 feet deep, 30 feet wide or something like that. Probably depends on the type of soil that it hits, if it's rock or who knows what. And so my dad did the electronics and he fired them, he aimed them, and he just about always hit his target. He was really, really great at what he did, and he even wrote a lot of the training manuals on how to improve things that the Navy adopted. But one thing that's really interesting is my dad never owned a gun personally. Like, there was never a gun in the house. He had no interest in them. And think of the contrast between that and his career as a naval officer and what he did. I think that's kind of cool. And it seems like a lot of the people that have kind of not just a love for guns, but a hard on for guns, for lack of a better thing to call it, like people that just seem like they want to make love to their guns, they don't seem like people that were ever in the military. You know what I'm saying? Or people that are even police officers, or people that are on the front line domestically or in foreign wars. It's kind of a weird contrasting irony. I don't really know what to make of that. However, I will say this. It seems to be a very popular opinion with people at the police force, people in our military, that has experience with the most powerful weapons in the world, stuff that's illegal for people like you and I to even get. They want more checks and balances on our Second Amendment rights to bear arms. And a checks and balance concept is all over our founding documents. People call for gun control, gun laws, gun legislation. It's not about control. That is entirely the wrong word and the wrong concept, but it checks and balance. And in some places, my dad was really great. My dad wasn't nuanced about everything, but he was nuanced in this area, as I am. Some places in our country, way overboard with the gun regulation, and it's more like gun control. And they have horrible gun violence and this and that. And the bullets are typically flying in one direction, so the bad guys kill a lot more people. But then a problem with that is that you don't need to go far to get outside of that jurisdiction to go where you can take advantage of the gun show loophole, where obviously there's not enough checks and balance on the other side, where it's just too loose. And they can just go right back in where bullets are flying one direction because they just went outside to pick up the weapons and they come back in. So that's a problem. So federally, obviously, because federal law supersedes local and state laws, closing the gun show loophole is 93% popular. And we can't get that passed. We can't get a universal background law passed so that no matter what, and anywhere in the country, there has to be a background check. We can't ban the bump stop that turns a semi-automatic weapon into a fully automatic weapon, even though fully automatics are totally illegal to buy or use. But it's legal to buy this piece of hardware that converts a semi into a full. That also has about 93% favorability, and we can't get something that has 93% favorability in what's supposed to be a representative democracy. That just means it's not a representative democracy. Anything with a 93% approval rating we would have gotten yesterday, and we still can't get it. There's one thing that explains that not even my dad really talked about, and most people, including people in the military, and that is the money that's in politics, the corruption. In this instance, for example, the gun manufacturers, the NRA, they've bought our elected leaders They give them bribery money. It's called donation money, political campaign donation money. That's essentially legalized bribes. Anywhere else, just about anywhere else, that kind of bribery is illegal because it creates a conflict of interest. They're on the take with their legalized bribes, so they're going to represent their donors. Their donors, they want to sell more guns. That's it. That explains all of it. Now, we can start chipping away at the amount of gun violence. We'll never get rid of it totally, but we can certainly chip away at the number. I mean, there's about 10,000 homicides by guns per year in this country. We could chip away at that, maybe reduce it to 5,000, which means 5,000 people get to have their lives spared just by better checks and balances at a federal level, like closing the gun show loophole. Something my dad was very much in favor of, something people in the military, police, fire, so on, the professionals that are fighting, protecting us overseas and domestically, I think their opinions weigh much more heavily in value and credibility than somebody who hasn't had those kinds of experiences with really large, high-powered weapons. It just seems so really common sense to me, and my dad never wanted to take away people's rights to bear arms. He believed in the Second Amendment, but he also believed in the Constitution, which has checks and balances. There's no such thing as an unlimited freedom. There's no such thing as unlimited rights on guns. There's no such thing as unlimited rights on free speech. If you're inciting violence or physically threatening somebody, you don't get that right. It's not protected. That's a checks and balance. Same thing with guns and with everything else. So we need to find a better balance with checks and balances, especially that Second Amendment issue. There's something like, upper 20s or close to 30,000 deaths total, and a lot of them are suicides, a lot of them are accidental, about 10,000 are homicides, but even the suicides and the accidentals, all of it, that whole number could be chipped away. So maybe 30,000 could be chipped down to 20,000, maybe 15,000, maybe 10,000. At that rate, 20,000 plus people a year are going to live. And that's what a good checks and balance does. It gives our first responders tools and resources to go after people, bring them to justice, maybe prevent crimes when we have information. Because if something is legal, we can't, somebody purchases a bump stock to turn their semi-automatic weapon into a fully automatic. We have the information, we can't do anything about it because it's legal. If it's illegal, we can do something about it. Start to chip away at that number. People say criminals don't follow the law. You're right. But if it becomes more difficult because we have laws in place and first responders have tools to be able to take action to prevent crimes from happening in the first place and also to bring others to justice where the crimes do happen, we can absolutely chip away at that number of 30,000 deaths a year by gun violence. And that's worth it. And for someone that doesn't believe in checks and balances, for someone that's advocating just full-on gun rights, unlimited gun rights, that person either doesn't know the Constitution or they do know the Constitution and they don't believe in it. But typically with people that are just in love with guns, the ones that are fighting for unlimited gun rights, those people are also the same people that claim to be hardcore constitutionalists, USA all the way, Constitution. So they're really just incredibly stupid people. They don't know the Constitution, but supposedly they're so pro-Constitution they want to go to bed with it, except they have no idea what's in it. A bedrock of our Constitution is checks and balances. It comes with every law, every right, every liberty, every freedom, every amendment that we have. There's a checks and balance. And that's something that my dad highly believed in and fought for. Our people, for the past couple hundred years or so, since the birth of our country, people have fought and died and sacrificed. My father, thank goodness, came back from the war, Vietnam War, just fine. And he got to live the rest of his life. But there's so many people that didn't. And even though my father came back just fine, he still fought. And the family sacrificed. My dad would be away on 6-month tours of duty and things like that. So there's a lot of sacrifice. And we sacrifice so that we can become a more perfect union by our founding documents, which includes checks and balances. And we need them so badly for our Second Amendment rights. But we aren't going to get it unless we get all money out of politics. And the best way to influence that is we start voting for candidates the state level, the local level, the president, all of Congress, our representatives, we start voting for people that are not on the take of private donation money. No more legalized bribes. They'll get the hint real fast if everybody suddenly boycotts corruption in politics. Because if we get people that are going to represent us instead of their donors, the only way that can happen is they don't take any more donor money. But once that happens, they represent us, and we can have disagreements, and they can be principled disagreements, and we can work past it. We can find solutions, and that's a good thing. But right now, agreements, disagreements, it doesn't matter. The conflict of interest that's been created with our politicians being on the take, there's no such thing as a principled politician who's taking money, and there's no such thing as having a principled disagreement or agreement. So the money has to go. So I suggest whenever you listen to a politician talk, whether it's an interview or a debate or a commercial or whatever, have a printout of their donor list from top to bottom. The wealthiest donors down to the bottom, the ones that contribute the most, and start lining up with their policy positions, what's coming out of their mouth, with their donor sheet. And you're going to see they're totally corrupt, bought, paid for, a conflict of interest, and it'll just make more sense. So I hope you guys like this video. I love you, Dad. I miss you so much. And I'm always going to miss you until I see you again after I pass on. Honestly, I'm looking forward to that, but without discounting life on earth, because you, Dad, you fought hard for this country you love so much, and you worked faithfully to give my mom, me, and my little brother the best that life has to offer, so that we'd have these opportunities to make it a great life here on earth. So I can't wait to see you again when I pass, but without discounting life here on earth. All right. I've got quite a few things I've written about my dad, and will continue to write. It's been wonderful therapy to do that and just totally express myself and be vulnerable and all these things at my website, tombirkenmeyer.com. That's tombirkenmeyer.com, just like it's spelled here on social media. Check it out. And I also write a lot about health and wealth, which are two topics I've been passionately writing about for the past 10 years now or something. So tombirkenmeyer.com. Feel free to like this video, comment, share. Let's have some agreements and disagreements, but principled ones. Get rid of this conflict of interest and bring back a healthy checks and balance into our rights as intended by our founding documents. Okay? Bye for now, everybody. Take care.